Welcome to the Unfiltered Tea with Evie podcast, where personal brands and service providers come for honest, anti-sleaze marketing advice that actually works. I'm Evie Taveras, founder of Evie Taveras Branding, and if you're tired of manipulative tactics, sleazy marketing strategies, and feeling like you're the only one who doesn't have your business all together, you're in the right place. On this podcast, we're diving into copywriting, personal branding strategy, business mindset, and balancing business with kids and real life. I'll be bringing in some epic guests, including business experts, to share their insights and real experiences in life and business. You can expect real life stories, tactical tips, and the occasional spicy Evie moment, all served up with your morning cup of tea. So grab your tea, get cozy, and let's get into it. Before we dive into this episode of the Unfiltered Tea with Evie, I wanted to just take a second to acknowledge the fact that this is the last episode of season 1. We started back in January and have been mostly weekly since then, which was honestly more than I actually anticipated when I started the podcast, but I've still been loving every minute of it. And honestly, guest episodes like the one that you're going to hear today is part of the reason that I really love doing the podcast, and we'll definitely continue on with season 2. Season 1 is wrapping up. If you didn't listen to all the episodes, I highly recommend that you go back. There's some absolutely incredible guests in there and so much insight. And the solo ones are good too, of course. But yeah, I'm just incredibly thankful for anybody who's listened in, anybody who's shared. I see it all, and I thank you so much. And yeah, season 2 will be back in June. I don't have a specific date yet, but for now, we're going to hit pause on this. And I've already got some awesome guests scheduled for season 2. So we will be back, and I can't wait for you to tune in. So without further ado, let's get into the last guest episode of season 1. It's honestly incredible. Like, wouldn't have had anybody else come on for this last episode. Without further ado, our next guest and our last guest of season 1 is Puja Malhotra. Puja is a branding strategist, web designer, and creative mentor helping entrepreneurs build brands and websites that attract dream clients. As the founder of Roop Creative Agency, she brings big sis energy and sharp strategic thinking to every project, from brand identity to full website builds. Puja also offers creative mentorship for founders and creatives who want to grow with intention, and she is also the co-host and founder of the We'll Circle Back podcast. And I will leave all of the links for you to connect with Puja as well, but listen in and enjoy the episode, and can't wait for you to hear it. Welcome to the Unfiltered Tea with Evie, Puja. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. I think we met obviously online, but we're in a lot of the similar communities. So I love having like these opportunities to kind of connect more and get to know more about you and what you do. So I'm super excited.
Same. I know. It's weird how you meet people online and then like somehow end up meeting in real life and then end up on their podcast.
Right. And now you have your own podcast too.
Yes. Yeah.
So
That's all
exciting. Yeah. We'll get into that.
right.
Yeah. Okay. So to start, I want you to, if you could kind of like take us back to the beginning. Like, I know you worked in corporate for a long time. What did your entrepreneur journey kind of look like for you?
I think I was like 6 or 7 years old when I came home with this picture that I drew of being the boss. And that's probably when it was like the seed was planted in my head that one day I will be a boss. I come from an entrepreneurial family. Although my father is an engineer, my mom, funny enough, is a graphic designer, but both of them kind of found this entrepreneurial roots as immigrants in Canada. And then so it was built into kind of the upbringing that I had. However, it was never encouraged, which is always funny to say because, parents always want the best for their kids. And for them, they thought cushy corporate job sounds fabulous. And so unlike most South Asian parents, my parents were very supportive of me not becoming a lawyer, doctor, engineer. They were very supportive of my design career. But as I got into corporate, I started realizing this is not for me. And I didn't feel like I was getting the opportunity. I started to hit walls. I wasn't growing and scaling my own skill set in the way that I wanted to. And it wasn't until I had a conversation with a friend of mine who was starting her business and wanted to pick my brain for branding because that's what I did in corporate, that something sparked in me. And I realized this is what's missing. And this is where my creativity can flow. And up until that point, I was in corporate, but I was also had a side hustle in the wedding industry. And I thought that like that's something that just kind of fell into my lap where I was just designing invitations on the side, but it felt like homework
Hmm.
after after a full day of work. And so when I had this conversation with her, that's where something sparked and I decided to take a 1-year mat leave contract, so covering somebody's mat leave at the Canadian Chiropractor College. And I was their art director there for 1 year, but I took that role on with the intention of it ends, and that's when my business starts. And it ended in August, and October 2016 is when we launched.
It's awesome. I love that. And how long have you been in business now?
So 10 years. It'll be 11 this October.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Puja owns Roop Creative Agency. And I want to touch on the name for a second because we
Yes.
actually have this in common, which I love so much. You named your agency after your grandmother, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So I also, when I first started my business, I piggybacked it off of my Instagram, my like hobby photography Instagram, which was Teacup and Saucer, which was an ode to my very, very, very English great grandmother. And a lot of like anything tea related in my, there's a lot of tea in my branding and with all of that. That's all from her as well. So I want to hear kind of your story. What was what tell me about that decision and what it means to you.
I feel like at the time it was a no-brainer. I very much grew up in like so I grew up with 3 sisters. It was 3 sisters, 3 of us. And being South Asian, you know, coming from a family of all girls, we constantly heard like, don't you guys want a brother? Or your parents should try for a boy. And like, it's like those conversations that really stuck with me. And I think I was a feminist from the minute I popped out, mainly because I was surrounded by them. My grandmother was this extraordinary woman, and I wish I could hear more stories from her today. But she went through the partition. She had a kid strapped onto her. She went from there, and then she became a widow very early on in life, and then somehow managed to get all her kids in amazing career, amazingly settled down, and like then traveled over to Canada with my dad. And I find that because we were surrounded by her, we were surrounded by my mom, who was very much a feminist, and all of that, for me, it was a no-brainer that when people said to me, how will I carry the legacy of my family on? Because I'm not a boy, I can't carry that last name back in the day. This was my way of kind of rebutting and
Hmm.
making her name something that was everlasting. I will say when my grandmother was alive, I was in university and she had no idea what I did. And I couldn't explain it to her for the life of me. But I do know that I overheard her one time speaking to one of her girlfriends saying, I don't know what she does, but I know she works really, really hard at it. And that line just stuck with me. And for me, it was about carrying her name, carrying that legacy, but also honoring her and making sure I remember that, even if somebody doesn't understand fully what I do, they know that I can
Mhm.
work really hard at it.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I love that. It's
Yeah.
like it sounds like she was the one who walked so that you could run, right? Like you've heard that phrase before of kind of the generations that we go through and the
Yeah.
people before us really set things up for us to thrive.
For sure, and I feel like even I talked about the strong women that I was surrounded with growing up, but, like, even my dad is a feminist because of the way that my grandmother raised him.
Mhm.
And so he's outnumbered in our household, and he was since we were, like, little, and now that, we're all married and we brought boys home, now it
Yeah.
feels like kind of even playing field. But he's always kind of been very supportive of us following our dreams. And so, yes, there is this, like, generation that passes on more and more privilege, I find. It's
Mhm.
that, like, immigrant story household.
Mhm. Okay, so you mentioned that you've been doing this for 10 years. I'd love to know kind of what your business looks like today versus what you thought it would look like when you first started.
My goodness. Yeah, that's a good question. I would say when I first started, the idea of luxury was very different for me. I wanted a brick and mortar. I wanted an office. I wanted a team. I wanted to be in Toronto. All the things that you can imagine a 20 something would want in their business. And as I grew the business, over the last 10 years, I realized sustainability is more important. And, there's some costs that don't actually make sense. It never made sense for me to have a studio, a physical studio with the kind of work that I was doing. And I like to work with people from all over the world. And so what I can accomplish over a Zoom call, obviously, like, we can meet one on one. I love meeting people in real life, but at the same time, I never discriminated working with people from Toronto, from Chicago. I even had a client from the Bahamas. And so for me, I realized that luxury is different and the way that you connect with people is different, especially in this online space. I might age myself a little bit with this, but social media didn't exist when my dream started. And, in the last 10 years, it's changed quite a bit too.
Hmm.
So it's interesting to see that aspect of change. And as far as luxury goes, going through IVF, infertility, the pandemic, stepping into motherhood really taught me what luxury truly is in life. And at the end of the day, I can collect all the handbags I want, but nothing beats picking up my kid from school and being able to turn things off at 3:30 and just spending time with him and entering that mom phase of my life.
Hmm. Yeah, I second that for sure. It's
Yeah.
like the most underrated thing. I'm just so happy to be able to, like you said, close the laptop at 3:30, go pick
Yeah.
her up. Like it's just the type of freedom that is very underrated, I think, in the business world.
Yeah, and I think that as founders, we try to chase like we're constantly told to chase figures and numbers and all of that is great. I am now in a space where I chase sustainability. I've been in
Mm.
my business for 10 years. I've been in this industry for 18. I've seen people come and go. And I plan to stay for a very, very, very long time. And
Mhm.
sustainability and having the luxury to connect with my son one on one and know that I can cook dinner with him and do all the things that I want to do with him to have that connection with him, but also chase my ambitions during the day. It's almost like I get to live this like duality in my life that makes me feel like a super mom.
Mm. The best of both worlds for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that social media wasn't really a thing when you first started. How did you kind of not pivot, but how did you like evolve your business to fit into like the new era of social media?
Yeah, I would say, like, when I first started, it was all, like, everyone was doing the flat lays on Instagram. Like, that was the new thing, and so, everyone was going to Home Depot and getting a large marble tile and putting some fun pictures together.
Yep.
It's evolved quite a bit. I feel like connection was easier to make when I first started and, like, there was no algorithm or anything.
Mhm.
Uh, I will say that one thing I have to thank my corporate job for is the opportunity to being the youngest person there. It was kind of this opportunity to be like, "Oh yeah, I'll go to the social media conference happening in Toronto. I'll go learn about it." And so in those beginning phases when Facebook was bigger than Instagram, I was able to really understand how this platform was going to grow. Um,
Mhm.
that said, it is nothing like what it was when I first started. And I think that although things have evolved and it feels a little bit harder, I feel like the content that I'm pushing out today is more valuable than the content
Mm.
pushing out in the beginning. But, in the beginning, you could take a flat lay picture and just have like a random caption and 30 people would connect with you.
Yep.
But are you connecting with the right 30 people? And so that's really changed, I think, over the last few years.
Yeah, so true. And were there things like before you had social media to grow your business? Was there strategies that you were able to use that you find still work
Yeah.
now?
I actually think social media is just like a little tiny part of my strategy.
Mhm.
For me, my clients have always come in through referrals,
Okay.
connections, and people who I have connections with previously. So one thing I did when I left the corporate world is I connected with everyone within the corporate world that I was friends with to tell them that I'm leaving. And I also, had a network because of the side hustle that I was running at that time. I connected with everyone in that network. So there was a lot of coffee dates and a lot of meeting together. And it's funny because actually 2 years ago, I had someone who reach out who is now a client, and he was taking over a PR firm 2 years ago. And he said, "Hey, remember we went on that coffee date 10 years ago? Are you still running that business you started?" And of course, I said yes. And it turned out now he's a client. He's brought me more clients now, too. And it's just fun to see how those connections really stuck with people. And so I would say, like, yes, social media is important, but it's more important to try and connect with people and make an impact in real life.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. So you've talked about like building your own business that fits your life, but you also do that for your clients.
Yes.
So can you kind of tell us what that means in practice? Like how do you help your clients to achieve that?
Yeah. So for my clients, I feel like the people that come in and fill out that intake form, the person who fills that out is not the person who leaves. And branding itself is very transformative. I don't think people are fully understanding of what it's going to do until they're in it. Because the process is really about peeling back the layers, especially when we're doing done for you branding in which we are not only doing a workshop period, we're doing a brand interview, we're doing visual exercises. So we're really trying to get within, like I like to say, I'm immersing myself in your business to
Mhm.
understand who you truly are and building from there. Because my goal and something that I'm really proud of is I would say 90% of our clients never come back for a rebrand. What they do come back for is brand expansion.
Mhm.
So I'm adding this to my service, or I need my website to grow and allow me to do this. And so that is something that I'm really proud of. But what that requires is a lot of pre work before we even start the design process. And I think that's the part that people don't necessarily realize. And that's the part that's most transformative.
Hmm. That's so true because I think like there are times where like you kind of outgrow what you
Yeah.
have. So being able to look at it with that long-term lens of this is a brand. I try to do the same thing with the copy side of things and with
Yeah.
the messaging and the words. Like this has to be something that's going to grow with you so that you're not coming back in 6 months asking to redo it, right? Not that
That,
we don't want to see our clients again every 6 months, but we want it to last.
but you want them for other things. That is my main, I think something that I learned very early on from working in a PR firm as one of the corporate gigs that I had before I started my business was I noticed that in that firm specifically, it was just about getting the content out there.
Mhm.
It wasn't about making it truly resonate. So for me, it was really important that each and every client, regardless of what the trends are, feels connected to their brand. It
Mhm.
shouldn't be trendy, it should be connected to you because once it's connected to you, it's timeless.
And is there a specific I mean, obviously with the brand discovery process, but what helps you to be able to see that in people and to be able to pull that out of people?
So for me, I like to pull like all 5 senses is what kind of where I'm at, is I will sit down with you, we have a 60-minute workshop, I will get you to write about your brand, I will get you to talk about your brand, and then we have the visual exercise, and sometimes it's even things that you're not saying or things that you're pointing out that you might not think mean anything. Though that's what I'm trying to pick up on.
Mhm.
Body language, all of that, to see what kind of person you are and how we can bring that into your branding, bring that into your website and your entire personality. Because I work with so many service-based entrepreneurs, a lot of that is their heart and soul. So pulling that information through these exercises is how I kind of get to that heart and soul, that vulnerability that they might not be sharing, or might not be completely transparent with, or might not even have the words for.
Mhm.
There are some questions where I had a client recently ask, like, why are you asking what's my vacation spot? And for me, I'm like, that is my favorite question to ask because it tells me so much about you, about your brand, about how you envision it over the next 5, 10 years. And someone who's choosing, a European vacation is very different than someone who's choosing Costa Rica.
Mhm.
And already you have a different atmosphere, a different vibe, a different feeling in your heart. Not to say one's better than the other, but one connects you differently than the other does.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. That literally just made me think of my like as soon as you said that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I think of my favorite vacation spot that aligns so well with me and my brand. Like mine is there's this cottage that we've been to multiple times
Mm,
on a lake and it's like surrounded by forest and we always go in the winter and it's like my favorite place to go. And or like even mine is always like repeat places. Like I like those recognizable places. So I think it's just yeah, always that place of comfort
yeah.
is kind of what I feel like I'm workshopping my own.
Yeah, no, it's so funny because I was gonna say comfort, ease, and like there's a calmness that comes with like that cottage sort of vibe, right?
Mhm.
So like the cottage, the cabin, that sort of thing. And then that's very different from like someone who says like New York, right?
Mhm.
And I've had the whole spectrum. Like I've had people say everywhere and anywhere in the world. I've once had to Google a location.
Really?
I'm like, where is this? I've never heard of this place before. But once I saw it, I was like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense." Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think too, like, just to like bring AI into the conversation,
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that AI doesn't think of. And it doesn't, like you said, the five senses. The AI's never felt the five senses before. So how can it really get into that? I think that just shows like the power of having like a human do
Mhm.
that bigger picture of your brand and look at that bigger picture of you and your brand.
Yeah, and I think, like, as far as AI is concerned, I am not too concerned about it. I do think that it's a monster. I think
Mhm.
using it in the right capacity is important. But somebody asked me, am I scared that I'm gonna lose my job to AI? No, because I didn't lose my job to Canva either. And like anybody can create a logo on Canva, but nobody's gonna do the work that I do. And I think that's where, especially when I'm mentoring people within our industry, I like to remind them of that human touch and, like, elevating your service so that it's providing more than what Canva or AI or Fiverr is providing. Like, you are not giving that same service, so that's not your
Mhm.
competition necessarily.
For sure. It's like 2 different clients are you're not
Completely
like,
different.
one's gonna be okay with Canva and AI and one's not, and that's
And
where you come in.
you could start off as someone who's okay with Canva and AI, and then eventually get to a point where you're like, "Hey, I want, you know, higher level clients, and I'm not gonna get that with a DIY brand or like an AI brand because it's just so common with everything else they're seeing. I'm not standing out."
Mhm.
I do get a lot of that. I have experienced entrepreneurs who just kinda DIY'd something, put it out there, and now they're like, "Hey, I'm getting these high ticket clients and I'm scared to send them my website," right? And
Yep,
so that's where, like, you already know when you're ready to take on a service and invest a service like this.
yeah, that's so true. I love that. So you've mentioned before kinda navigating growth and contraction is something that you love to talk about. I'm honestly not 100% sure what that is, so can you enlighten me and kinda let me know what that looks like?
Yeah, so, again, I think this comes with time and experience. For me, I entered motherhood during the pandemic, but post-pandemic. It was 2021. And so I realized very quickly that, 2021, a year financially was perfect, but I also wasn't away from my desk for most of it.
Mm.
My born in October, so it was very much the end of the year. Last quarter, I was fine. It wasn't until 2023 when I felt a contraction in my business. It was almost as if everyone had disappeared. And this is where I think sustainability in business is really important. For me, it's like, how do you stay relevant? And what I realized quickly was my sales cycle is about 90 days. But what I was doing in my quote unquote mat leave, because, as business owners, you don't really get a mat leave, I was focusing on my clients only. The thing that I took back is my own marketing. I was not showing up anywhere. And I quickly realized that that was kind of the anchor and the reason why I have a contraction in my business. Now, there's two ways that this could go. I could decide to leave and go back to corporate, or I could decide to fix it and grow my business and start scaling again. And so for me, there was no choice. There's always a choice. Let me rephrase that. There's always a choice, but I didn't want to have a choice. I
Yeah.
wanted my business to be successful. And so I saw that contraction and it didn't scare me. What I did was rearranged things. I got rid of services that were actually profitable, but not allowing me to scale my business in ways that I wanted to scale. So we used to actually provide social media management. It was taking so much out of me that I wasn't able to scale my business and branding and website the way that I wanted to. It also didn't make me happy.
Mhm.
When I started my business, the whole idea was a one-stop shop. That's what all the branding boutiques were doing. That's what all the website designers were doing is like, "Hey, yeah, we'll add social media to that package, no problem." What I was realizing is as social media started growing, almost became this separate thing, and it is a separate thing now. And so for me, it was really important to drop that even though it was a profitable service. I needed to drop that in order to focus on what makes me happy, and what I knew from the start was if it makes me happy, I'm gonna excel in it. That's what's gonna help me scale. And so one thing that I wasn't able to address before this moment of contraction was I was only working with experienced entrepreneurs, the people who are ready to invest in their business. What I wanted to do was cut social media and actually only do branding and website. but I also wanted to address the issue of those people who are just starting out who might not have the investment to, the 5K for branding and 5K for like it's almost a 10K investment into your branding and your website. It's a lot, it's a big investment. I get that. But
Mhm.
not everyone's ready for it. And so that's when I pivoted and kind of looked into how can I service more people with the two things that I love to do and still keep my business afloat and sustainable and hit like, the multi six figure marks that I like to hit. And so that is where the contraction, even though it was a bad year, kind of accelerated and made me push in a direction that helped me. And I feel like I'm doing less now, but more of what I want. And
Mhm.
so, when like, I love everything branding and websites. And so if I can introduce a mini website, if I can introduce brand kits and hit more people in the masses at every stage of entrepreneurship, why wouldn't I do that? That makes me so much more happier than it did with this profitable service that was not making me happy, right?
Mhm.
And the profits come. That's something that I think a lot of people get scared about is taking that risks. In that time of contraction, I would say focus on how am I going to pivot from this to make it work out for me, right?
Mhm.
I feel like that the idea of money, if for me it's flowing, right? It comes and it goes, but it's never gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. So, let's say someone does come to you and their brand just doesn't feel like them anymore. Like you said, somebody who DIY'd it, DIY'd their logo. Where would you start with them?
Ooh, okay. So this is the category of experienced entrepreneurs, what I would call them, is
Mhm.
because they've started their business, they're 2 years in, and now they just want those high ticket, high value clients, and they want to get rid of the riffraff.
Mhm.
For those people, we would start with done for you branding. And the reason being is that's the service where we peel back the layers and really find out who you are. And I think at that point in someone's career, they're ready to not only make the investment, but make a timeless investment. So again, how I position our service for branding is I want to really dive deep and make sure that you love every aspect of it so that in 10 years from now, you're not rebranding, but instead expanding your brand. And for me, it's really important to look at like, Coca-Colas of the world, the Chanel's, whatever brand you want to name, look at them and see how often they're rebranding, right? Or the ones that do are less trusted. And so we want to create that for small businesses and
Mhm.
especially female run businesses. Like that's where my passion is. Women run businesses. I want them to have those opportunities that these big corporations have. And so that's where my kind of corporate background comes in, where I can give you all this, but for a service level that's perfect for your small business.
Mhm. Do you think that people need to go through that initial, like you said, 1 to 2 year phase, DIYing things where they do the most self discovery about their business? Do you think they need to go through that first before they're ready to find that long term brand, that sustainable brand?
Not everybody. And the reason why I say that is because I know there's a handful of people who start no and then they launch and then they're good with it.
Hmm.
But for the most part, I would say, like, my advice to people, which is probably not what most brand strategists say, it's an unpopular opinion, is just start. Start, see what works, see what doesn't work. You will know when you're ready to make that investment. And
Hmm.
if it's something that you're wishy-washy about, then start with a brand kit, start with the smaller ticket sort of items, and then work your way up. But I do find that when if somebody comes to me as an experienced entrepreneur, they've done the DIY, they themselves know where they stand, even if they can't clearly articulate their vision at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think I agree. Like, even
Yeah.
from the copy side,
Yeah.
um, like I can help people to get there, to get their clearer messaging and that kind of thing. But I think even for myself, it took me a couple years to really
Yeah.
like pin down, this is who I am, this is what I want my business to look like, this is my messaging. I think but it took me those experiences, the clients that I had, like the things that I learned, it took all of that in order to get to where I am.
And I'm the same way. Like, if
Mhm.
you see what my agency, the first website we had, or the service list that we had before, it was extensive and it was just catered to everyone, right? I was trying to be bold. I was trying to blend in. I was trying not to be too feminine or too masculine. And it wasn't until, I feel like it was a 2 year mark where I was just like, you know what? I just want to show up like myself. So if I like, more pastel colors and the charcoal is mixed in with it, that's what I'm going to showcase now. If I
Yeah.
want to attract more women founders, that's what I'm going to do now. And it's this acceptance of like who you are, but who you're also trying to, attract as clients,
Hmm.
right? That happens, I think, to everyone. It happens to me too. But I will say, because I do have a couple of clients who came in and like they knew from day one what they wanted. But I also think that that's just their background that they're coming in from. So it might be like a corporate background or something where they have this clear vision. But for the
Hmm.
most part, even I myself had to pivot not only after motherhood, but after running my business for the first 2 years. So there's many times that I've pivoted my career as well.
Hmm. And there might not be an answer to this, but I'm curious. Is there a common branding mistake that you see entrepreneurs making over and over again that just like grinds your gears?
Okay. The one that grinds my gears is people who get bored.
Mm.
Consistency is key in branding. So if you feel like you have been using your colors for too long, that's great. I gave the example of Coca-Cola earlier. If we took away all their branding and just had that shade of red walking down the pop aisle, you would know what you're picking up. And that's what I want to create for small businesses. And so consistency is key, using those same colors, the same fonts. It seems so small, but it makes such a big impact. And so I think that's probably the one thing that I cringe over and like the one mistake that I always see. And for the most part, my clients know not to do that to me because I will call them out on it. But I've had some friends who are like, "Oh yes, I'm gonna hire you soon," and then I see what they're doing, and I'm like, "Girl, please don't." I know blue's not your color. It's not one of the colors you used before. So why are we using it now?
Yeah, I love that. And like it doesn't even have to be complicated. Like simple stuff, keep it
Yeah.
around for the consistency. It builds trust, like that recognition, like you said.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you are in the DIY phase, 5 colors. 5 colors, 3
Mm.
fonts. Don't go over that. The minute
Hmm.
you start going over that, you're gonna get confusing. It's not gonna be pretty, and although it looks nice on the Canva template, it's just not gonna be recognizable, and that's the goal, especially in this world of social media where
Yeah.
people are just scrolling mindlessly. You want, even in that scroll, for them to know what they just passed by.
I've even heard like with I can't remember for the life of me where I heard this, but like with Instagram, even posting on stories, picking two fonts.
Yeah.
And like I've been using the same stinking two
Mhm.
fonts on Instagram stories for the last 3
Yeah.
years. But it's like if I even look at another one now, I'm like, that's not it. That's not me. Like sometimes it'll accidentally go to a different font. I'm like, no, 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 we have to go back to this font. So like it all helps to build that brand recognition, even little things like fonts.
100% fonts, colors, all of it. I find that it's easy to fall into the traps though. Like there are moments where I'm like, "Ooh, new font." And like, my favorite part of my job is like the nerdiest part is before creating brands, I go font shopping and spend a lot of money on fonts. Um but but it's like I get the excitement around it, right? But
Mhm.
it's really important, and even for myself, like it's really important for my brand to be recognizable in that 3 seconds that somebody scrolls by, right? And so that's what I want for my clients as well. And these big brands like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and I don't know why I'm thinking sodas today. But like, these guys aren't changing things up. They're
Yep.
very consistent with how they look. And so that's the goal, is to stay consistent.
Mhm.
But yeah, I am such a nerd when it comes to font shopping.
So, like, okay, this is like a random question. So, like, font shopping, like, isn't there just like the fonts that are there, or like there's
No.
somewhere you can go shopping for fonts? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yes, there's actually like a market that's just for fonts.
That's so
There's
cool.
multiple actually. And so one thing that I will say is that when I go shopping for fonts, I will choose a bunch. We'll shop for them. We'll also check out what's in our current library as well, depending on your brand. But when we're creating, we're not using that font. And I think that's what one thing that varies from like, the Canvas or the AIs is, for me, even if I'm creating a signature for you, it's multiple fonts, multiple designs, and, like, I'm probably turning the fonts into shapes, which is a term that designers might know,
Mhm.
is we get rid of the font aspect of it so nobody can type it out and adjust it in ways, and detail it in ways that allow it to be something that you can trademark, that is completely yours, that is no longer a font. So when I'm shopping for fonts, I'm not just seeing what's typed out, I'm seeing the potential of what it could be,
Mhm.
in that logo.
That's so cool. I had no idea that you could even do that. Learn something new every day.
You want
I love that.
you want something that is unique that you can trademark. Even if that's not your goal today, tomorrow, whenever it is, you wanna be able to have something unique. So one thing, like, we in our branding, we always provide a full logo, an alternative, and an icon. Something that personal brands like to do is a signature. And so one of my clients asked me, he was like, "What is the font that you use, the script font that you use for my signature?" And I was like, "That's actually 3 fonts combined into one because the A didn't look good in this one and the D didn't look good in this one. And then we tweaked it and then we like erased the L part of it. And so I can't give you that font because I don't know it's all made up.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that nobody else can use that and type that same thing out and get his signature now.
Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, so I want to shift gears a little bit into motherhood and entrepreneurship and
Yeah.
balancing those two very big, exciting things. So, on a day to day basis, what does balance look like for you? I know we talked about being able to go pick up your son from school, but
Yeah.
like day to day, hour to hour, what does that balance look like for you?
I think I'm gonna actually reframe it because I feel like it's harmony, not balance.
Hmm.
I've given up on balance. For me, there are days where I'm gonna be winning in motherhood, and there's days when I'm gonna be winning in entrepreneurship, and those 2 days are not gonna be the same. And it's hard. There are nights where I cry myself to sleep because I wasn't there as a mom that I wanted to be. Or like, I had to like miss an opportunity to do something with my kid. And so like there is that harmony, but I think having strong boundaries is the key to it. And for me, 3:30, that's my cutoff, right? I will give my business my 100% attention and more even up until that point. But after that point, I am shutting off. And something that one of my clients who's an interior designer told me when I was telling her the same thing is she's like, "You're not a surgeon. You're not saving lives. You're allowed to shut off at 3:30." She's like, "There is no emergency that you will be needed for in that case." And, there are the rare moments where, like, you have to work overtime, going on vacation, taking some time off. So you're doing all that. But I think that it's important to have those boundaries where, like, from this time to this time, I'm mom. And from this time to this time, I am boss.
Hmm.
Right. And that is what has helped me. I also have split up my days now where I have block days for certain tasks. So Mondays are my CEO days and my content creation days. That work is done or it's 3:30, whatever comes first, I'm done for the day. And, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, that's when I have all my calls. Thursdays, I have 0 calls. It's my design day. I'm becoming an introvert that day 100% and like not talking to anybody. That is when I just go dive deep. And then Fridays are my catch up day. So anything missing, whether I need to have another design day or I need to have more calls, whatever it is, it's my catch up day. And I think having that structure has really helped me excel in my business.
I love that. And I love that you said the harmony versus balance thing because you're right. It's never like a perfectly balanced
No.
thing that's going on here. It's always going to be leaning one way or the other. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, sometimes there is guilt attached to that on both sides, right? But
Yeah.
it also looks different for everybody. Like, I know for myself, I've still got one at home, my youngest at home. I've childcare 2 days a week. But then the other days, I've still got my youngest at home. So she misses her sister. She misses her playmate. She's like wanting attention. And yeah, just having those boundaries of like giving her that attention. And like, it's hard when somebody's like, oh, can we book a call this day? Can we? And it's like, you want to be able to squeeze these things in. But it's like, at the end of the day, like I did this so that I could look after her, be home with her, and that kind of thing. Right.
And I think for me, I'm very much now at this place where I'm comfortable saying no. I
Hmm.
I don't like moving things. I can't adjust things last minute, especially my calendar is there for a reason. If the times are not available, those are the times that are available. Like,
Hmm.
and so on the very rare occasion, I will make an adjustment for whatever reason. But for the most part, like the reason why I have these systems in my business is so that I can run it the way that I want to, living the life that I want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if we just said yes to everything, we wouldn't get anything done.
And that doesn't mean I'm prioritizing my personal life over my business life. It actually means that I'm prioritizing my business life.
Hmm.
And I think that's a, concept that everyone doesn't necessarily understand is they think, "Oh, she's a mom now. She wants to just spend time with her child. No, that's not the case. I could not homeschool. Kudos to the women that do, but like I know I couldn't do it. It's not in me to spend that much time with my kid. I have ambition
Yeah.
and I have goals in life and I have this business that I've created from the ground up. And in order for me to be 100% present in that, I have to set these boundaries.
Mhm.
Right. And so it's not about winning in one or the other. It's about actually achieving the goals that I have in life, whether they're personal or business.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good example for our kids too, that like you can do both. You can be ambitious and you can grow your business, but you can also be a really good mom and you can do both.
You know who's not having these conversations though? Dads. So
Yeah.
remind myself of that. My husband, he's a great partner. He's an active father, but he's never thinking, am I guilty for going to work? Right.
Mm,
And I have to remind myself of that because I do feel like we both have ambitions, but one of us feels guilty about our ambitions. And that
mhm.
was something that I had to take time to heal and understand and get over. I was almost jealous of him for not having the guilt.
To just be able to just go to work. Yeah. Yeah. You touched on this briefly earlier, about like your IVF journey with your son, that being during COVID. Did
Yeah.
I get that timing right? That you did IVF during COVID?
Yeah, we started in 2020. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm being sarcastic just for the
Oh,
audience.
I know. Yeah. um, and then you had your son was did you say late 2021?
Yeah, October 2021.
Okay. So how did you do it
I don't
while
know.
running a business?
I was alone for a lot of it because
Mhm.
weren't allowed to take anybody in your appointment. So it was very much like my partner was in the parking lot and I was upstairs in the clinic. It was an interesting journey. I would say during the IVF process, I realized how resilient I am. And I don't think that it affected my business at that time as much because for me, it was just, okay, we're going to deal with this and then we're going to continue working. Motherhood, I think, shook me a little bit because I was sold this dream where you could just strap your kid on and keep typing on a computer. So, no, that's not true. And if anybody sells you that dream, that's not true. It's chaos. There's ups and downs, and you cannot control your timings. But like that realization was almost good for me, right?
Mhm.
But as far as IVF goes, it is emotional. It is a lot. I think I was on this unique journey because of the pandemic, but I spent a lot of times talking to people about it and sharing my journey, and that helped me. For me, I
Uh-huh.
wasn't quiet. I had an ectopic pregnancy prior to the fertility clinic, and I felt like that happened to me so that I could be vocal about fertility issues. And it almost allowed me to empower myself by sharing my story and going through it. And especially going through it in the pandemic, yes,
Mhm.
it was lonely, but I didn't always feel alone.
Yeah, that's really nice. And it's almost like it's already a difficult situation, a big, very difficult thing to go through, and then you're throwing in this other curveball
Yeah.
of the pandemic. Like, I
Yeah.
think, like, even for like, I think I was pregnant. I had my baby right before COVID, but just that vision of motherhood, like you said,
Yeah.
during COVID just ended up being completely different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely. And like there was no like I think there's almost a celebration in pregnancy, and I felt like that was all taken away from me
Mm,
in some aspects, which yes, it's sad, but also it's part of my story now.
mhm,
And so I don't associate it with a sad feeling.
mhm.
I wish I could have like, the big baby shower. I wish I could have done like, I was very nervous about people meeting my baby. I didn't allow him to see anybody for the first like, I don't know, 6 months of his life.
Yeah.
I was nervous and it was a weird space to be in, but at the same time, like for me, it was just about staying safe, being safe, and putting him first.
Mhm,
And as far as business goes, like it was like easy because I didn't have to go anywhere, right?
mhm.
So that part of it was a blessing. Like everything was moved over to Zoom. So I can be as pregnant as I wanted to be, still still being able to run everything. And that's where a lot of my business processes changed. Like we moved everything virtual at that point, and we never went back from that because it just made more sense for us to go virtual than for me to take an hour out of my day, drive to you and, talk through branding.
Yeah.
And I think everyone became more comfortable with virtual too. So people weren't afraid to shy away and be vulnerable on a Zoom call.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And I think with like anyone who had a baby, had a
Yeah.
business, and went through COVID is just like a very special breed of person, I think.
Well,
And
there's
then add IVF on top of that, you're like a superhero.
thank you. And like those kids are different. Like they're just I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I don't know about yours, but like mine, like I'm just like, how are you a teenager already? You're 4.
right? I know. Mine's 6 now, and I'm like, holy moly. Yeah. Okay, amazing. So I want to get into some rapid fire before we wrap up. I know
Yeah.
we have to wrap up here. But before we do, can you let anyone in the audience know where they can find you and the best way to connect with you?
So you can find me. My personal brand is the Puja Malhotra, and then my on Instagram, and then my business brand is at Roop Creative Agency. So you can find me on both. I'm a little bit more spicier on my own personal brand, and then you can see all the pretty stuff that we create on Roop Creative Agency. And yeah, I'm fun. Like Threads is a great place to join the conversation for me. And if you want, I'm also old school. I like getting an email, so just send me an email if you need to.
Amazing. I'll link all of that in the show notes as well. So let's get into some rapid fire. This is my favorite question. Are you a tea person or a coffee person?
Okay, tea. Can I say something that might be controversial?
Yes.
Um, I actually, for me, because of my culture, tea is a ritual. Coffee is fuel.
I love that. That's really cool. Okay. Best book you've read recently?
I recently read. My goodness, what was it called? It was from a series with Next Year in Havana. Have you read it?
I read that one, but I didn't know it was a series.
No, it's a series. Oh my goodness, the name is slipping from my head, but it's like believe it was like the last year we were in Cuba or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get that one for you. Like
Okay.
I it's slipping my mind, but that series is incredible. I love it. It's historical fiction and
Yeah.
there's like a love story involved in it. Like I like to read to escape. I love a business book here and there, but I love to escape after a long day and just have some me time too.
I think you're the first person who said not a business book, so I love that.
I go through phases.
Yes. What's one tool you couldn't run your business without?
Like all of them popped up in my head. Dipsado later. I think those 2 are the main. Those 2 are the main because yeah, I can't function without the 2 of them.
Yeah.
One helps me schedule things, one helps me keep my clients in order and get paid.
Yeah.
All the stuff I
Both
don't
very important.
all the s
Yeah. What's your favorite thing to do on your day off?
read.
Mhm.
Read, spend time with my child, like, go to the spa. I love having some me time. I think that we get lost in, like, motherhood and ambition, and there's moments where you just need to have time for yourself, and so I highly recommend my birthday ritual is to go to the spa by myself, and
Nice.
I love doing it. I don't feel awkward at all.
Just bring a book. It's perfect.
Yeah, bring a book, just some time by yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Best piece of advice you've ever received in life or business?
Mm, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say doing things at your own pace.
Mm,
Yeah,
mhm. I
'cause
think
I
that's an important one right now.
right? And sustainable success is better than rapid success. Rapid success can come and go, but I think being sustainable is more important. And so that's why doing things at your own pace and not comparing yourself to others is so important. It's advice that I need to take from time to time,
Mhm.
but that's the one piece that I think I always come back to.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And then dream collaboration or partnership for 2026.
Can we work together?
Yeah, let's do it. Done.
Yeah, like, I would say for me, like, I feel like there's, like, these famous people out there in, like, all industries, and I don't care for that, like, I rather just build a collective unit of my goal, I guess, for 2026 is to build a collective.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I wanna build a collective of other agencies that I wanna work with, and I started kinda doing this in 2025, and I think my goal for this year is to, like, really build out that collective, so I know, like, for copy, these are the 2 people I'm going to, for ads, this is the 2 people I'm going through, and so that way I have this, like, collective of entrepreneurs that I can always turn to.
Yeah. And I think I heard you talking about that in your podcast as
Yeah,
well with Britt Holmes, which I love. I just listened to both of them. And yeah, you talked about like obviously collaboration is
yeah,
something that's like I don't know, it's not that it's popular, but it's like there wasn't collaboration in the past,
no,
right?
no,
Like it's much more of a movement now of like collaboration. And I like the
yeah,
when you said the collective, like
yeah,
having other you don't have to do all the things, have other people that you can go to
I
for things.
can't write copy for the life of me.
And I can't design worth crap.
Right? And so I rather hire the best of the best and give my clients the best of the best.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Pooja, for this conversation. I loved this and can't wait for people to listen in.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
I want to take a quick moment just to thank you so much for joining me in this space and just to encourage you that if there was anything that kind of sparked something for you or that you felt like somebody that you know maybe needed to hear, please feel free to share the episode. And if you are excited to hear more, go ahead and subscribe and listen to more of the episodes. I'm so excited that you're here and I can't wait to continue this journey with you.